Floyd Mayweather and Meni Pacьяо are fighting. This is huge news. Anybody who loves boxing, anybody who loves sports, anybody who loves competition, I'm here at Outlaws. I've been coming here for about 5 years, and I think there's not been a day that I have not asked you guys about the fight. Are you happy finally?
Oh, we know, Ellie.
Are you happy finally? I'm not going to ask, what do you think? Who do you think?
We're going to finally get Ellie to shut up about
No, actually, I'm going to start asking you now. Who wins? Who wins? Who wins?
Well, my thing is we'll finally get to see, and then we can stop talking about it, stop discussing it, because, again, after you discuss something so many times, you're like, oh, my goodness, man, everybody keeps coming. Because, again, not just you, but just people in general that come to the gym. You got to just get anybody that knows, I know he goes to this as well, anybody that knows that you're associated with boxing,
want to know?
That's the one question they'll keep asking. What's going to happen with Manny versus, this and that. So.
All the non-boxing fans want to know when that fight's going to happen. And the second question they want to know is when Mike Tyson's going to come back.
Well, first of all, thank you, Manny. Thank you, Floyd. Thank you, Floyd. Thank you, Manny, for this fight.
Thank you, Bob Arum.
Let's do the tail of the tape of this fight. Break down what each fighter comes into the ring with. Their weight, their height, their everything.
We got 37 versus 35 years, and that's not a lot of wear and tear on Floyd at 37 years old. Manny's the younger guy.
Floyd will be 38 by the time the fight happens.
Yeah.
And that's probably the only advantage that Manny has as far as the tail of the tape
But
goes.
Manny was in more wars, like brutal wars, than Mayweather.
But that can also be a detractor. You know what I mean? Because there is some wear and tear, you know. And if you notice the last few years, he's had trouble being as aggressive like recently as he's been in the past. And he's been aggressive with lesser opponents, but against, top level opponents, when he's been aggressive, it's kind of not worked to his advantage. So you got that as well. But you also got to keep in mind, Floyd's last couple of fights have been a little bit more on. His fight against Cotto was a little more than usual. And both his fights against Maidana, he took a lot more than usual. So that could be a factor as well.
Coach, let's go on. So Manny's younger. Who's taller?
Floyd's taller by about 2 inches, and again, this is their published stats. You really never know exactly how big they are. They're usually inflated slightly.
What are they listed as?
It's got a 5'8" versus 5'6".
Okay.
And yeah, you know what? There's probably a 2.5 inch difference between the two guys.
Who has a longer reach?
Here is listed as Floyd at 72 inches and Manny at 67. Probably also accurate. Manny's arms are not the longest, okay? Of course, you have Orthodox versus Southpaw. And their current weights, pretty similar. It's not listed here, but I think both of these guys are walking around in the streets around the 150, give or take a couple pounds mark. And the records are the biggest difference, in which Floyd has that 0.
47.
And Manny, of course, has his 5 losses and has been KO'd before.
Who's faster?
Because it's more than just speed. Because Floyd, it's accuracy, it's timing, and that's where Floyd is really the master, is that he combines his speed with that accuracy and timing. And Manny combines his speed in flurries and combination punching, I think, better than just about anybody.
Okay.
And that's what makes it also interesting, is the fact that, well, again, Manny years ago would do this more than he's done it recently. But when he starts throwing a lot of combinations, you know what I mean? They come a lot of times to such odd angles that, again, Floyd is one of the defensive masters. But again, when you got punches coming at you with no rhyme or reason, and you can't necessarily pick up on a person's rhythm, it makes it a lot more difficult to to dodge and everything. So again, we've been talking about this fight for years, but the fight is actually more interesting, like matchup-wise, than most people. Even myself, I'm thinking about it now. Even myself, it's really more interesting, like as far as a style matchup than I was really thinking about.
Coach, who do you give the advantage to on the offensive end? Equal? One guy better? One guy same?
No, I know Floyd. Manny is the more explosive offensive guy, but which will play into Floyd's counter-punching ability.
Who's better in defense?
Floyd. I mean, without question.
Who has the better corner?
Well, Floyd doesn't. Floyd has a family member. You know, Floyd has a relationship in the corner. It's not really like a corner person in the same
really
sense.
Floyd's the one in charge.
Different than the situation with Freddie Roach, pupil student. That's not the situation with Floyd and Roger.
Yeah.
Who do you think most fans are going to be rooting for in this fight? I mean,
Meni Pacьяo, yeah.
Why?
Because he has more of a fan base, and you got to keep in mind, a lot of people tune in because they desire to see Floyd lose. You know, so again, I think as far as fan bases,
Floyd is very popular.
Most people, he's popular, but most people, he's popular because a lot of people are tuning in because they desire to see him.
He'll be the heel in this.
You know,
absolutely.
Yeah. And that's part of his persona. You know what I mean? He knew that's what sells his fight, so that's part of his persona. So again, I think you're definitely going to see Meni Pacquiao's, a larger fan base. You know?
My last question: odds makers in Vegas have Mayweather 2-1, a 3-1 favored. Accurate or not accurate?
Pretty
about
accurate.
3-1 is accurate.
And Mayweather's a favorite.
Yeah. You get again. Say whatever you want to say about him, but just like Paul Williams said the other day, you can't take nothing away from him. You got to respect him because he knows what he's doing in that ring.
And if there was ever a guy to give it to the odds makers, though, it's Meni Pacquiao.
Yes.
All right, there you have it, Brandon Krause. You're smiling. You're happy. You couldn't wait for this fight. Are you going to be there in Vegas?
What are we going to talk about now, Ellie? I mean,
the build-up, training camp, the school.
After the fight.
After the fight is over.
Oh, rematch. Of course, rematch. It depends on how it goes. Hopefully, it will be a great show. PeaceReport.com. I'm Malik Sekback reporting, and you can follow me on Twitter @Sekback.